We are back to work in Studio B with ESPN college football analyst and former NFL linebacker Ray Bentley. Ray, welcome to BYU Sports Nation.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here.
I want to start with Jerem's hair, first of all. If there's a man that knows what a great mullet is like, we've seen pictures, Ray. You had a sweet mullet.
Yes, known for it.
Is Jerem getting there?
Yeah, he's got a little party going on in the back, but he needs a little more business in the front, I think. But it's close, quasi mullet, I guess I'd call it.
And this is BYU.
For this area,
this is rebellious.
That's a raging mullet.
Yeah, this is.
He says he's not going to cut it until BYU loses. So I hope he has
that could get long.
That could get long, you say. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. So BYU with this, incredible comeback win last week. Now they start a true freshman quarterback. What do you think of the matchup on face value with Boise State and BYU?
I think it's an exciting matchup. Looking forward to it. I watched Boise's first game, and their defense impressed me. Man, they flew around the field. It'll be interesting to see how they match up against what I expect to be primarily a short passing game. BYU always takes their shots down the field, and I believe Tanner's pretty good at that. We saw what he can do with the ball, throwing it around. But can they get something going on the running game? That's the Cougars' issue to me, I think. And now, you don't have Taysom Hill and his 90-plus yards that he really kind of changed the game last week. I don't know if Mangum can do that or not. We'll find out. But they got to find a way to run the football to, I think, just slow the game down and have a physical presence. I know it's going to be a physical game. I'm also looking forward to BYU's defense getting Kai Nakua back. I thought there was for lack of a better description, poor safety play last week. And they ran 4 or 5 different guys into that spot to try to get something out. He will solidify that defense, which got better throughout the game against Nebraska. They had some lapses, but you could see lights coming on a little bit, and they played very well at the end when they had to and made some stops. So this is a toss-up to me. It should be a good one.
Let's start with the running game specifically for BYU. As you mentioned, it was shut down against a very good Nebraska defensive front. I mean, a couple of those guys are going to play in the league. Malik Collins, Vincent Valentine. Where does Boise State's defensive line rate compared to that Nebraska front four?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a different style of guys. In Boise, it's a slashing type defense, slanting, where the line's going to use their quicks to get up into gaps, and the linebackers are flying up into other gaps, and if they play it well, then there's nowhere to run. But it's a double-edged sword, because if one guy doesn't get his gap, it can bust out the other end. But the defensive line, to talk specifically about your question, for Boise State is very good. They've got Tyler Horn, who number 69 flies around. He's outstanding. Armin Nance, number 40, is a very good defensive inside guy, and they got some depth too. So it will be a challenge for sure.
With BYU, the threat of the run with Taysom Hill was always there, so that kind of neutralized not having any kind of run game last week. Do you think that BYU will I think they'll still try and establish run game, but are they going to let the true freshman Tanner Mangum maybe throw it 45+, or is that a dangerous place to be?
I think they may have to. If they can't run the football, then that's what they got to do. I mean, you have to move the ball, whatever's there. And I guarantee you Boise's going to come up and try to take the run away. That's every defensive coordinator worth his salt will tell you that's the first thing they do. When you start your game planning, everything, it's all about stopping the run, get that other team one-dimensional, and then you can come after them. So, and if BYU cannot establish a running game, then, yeah, you might see the youngsters throw it 45, 50 times, which would be fun.
Ray Bentley, ESPN college football analyst, played 6 years for the Buffalo Bills, NFL linebacker, with us in Studio B as we look at BYU and 20th-ranked Boise State tomorrow night on ESPN2. Ray will call the game with Dave Lamont on ESPN. Let's talk about the quarterbacks now. You look at Ryan Finley, who is making his first road start, his second career start as Boise's guy, and Tanner Mangum is making his first home start. Obviously, he had the heroic play against Nebraska. They're kind of in the same position. So who has the quarterback edge tomorrow night?
I don't know, but if I'm playing defense, I'm licking my chops. You got,
on both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. You got some youngsters out there you might be able to do a little something with. It's interesting because I thought Ryan Finley played extremely well in a lot of respects for Boise last week. His pocket presence was outstanding. The way he had the feel, moved away from rush and bought time to throw passes and then also to scramble. He had a lot of nice plays doing that. One thing they didn't do is throw the ball down the field a whole lot. They're going to have to develop that, and I think that's sometimes a young quarterback isn't willing or doesn't have the confidence yet to sit in that pocket and wait for things to develop. And, yeah, you're going to have to take a hit or two, but you got to sit in there and get rid of that ball at the right time. And you know, he'll probably get better at it. You know, guys improve from week 1 to week 2. That's the most dramatic improvement, especially guys that haven't played, because there's no way you can simulate the speed of the game in a practice setting. And it's faster, it's different. And, you know, it's interesting, though, because some guys, they're actually more comfortable with that faster tempo. That's where they fit. Other guys, it takes a while to get used to it and develop into it. I think it's too early to tell with these two youngsters, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm real impressed with Mangum's arm. He's got a howitzer. He can make all the throws and gets it out quick. Looks pretty doing it, you know, one of those guys. So if he can get, I guess, a little calmness to him. I thought his feet got happy early. There was one play in particular where he dropped back and looked around, nothing was there, and he did a Three Stooges little whoop, 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 360, nobody around him. He turned a full 360, then sat back in the pocket, and then found somebody. Once he gets settled, he'll just sit there and hold the ball and look around instead of them feet getting all happy. And you know, he can do a Tom Brady where you stand tall in the pocket. If he can get to that point quickly, he's got all the other tools.
Ray, BYU fans expect a lot of Tanner Mangum because they've been here in typical BYU fashion. They've heard about this kid for like 6 years, you know, before he even gets here. He was an Elite 11 co-MVP with Jameis Winston. Someone tweeted to me, hey, maybe Heisman and national championship at some point. And I said, oh, my goodness, like, slow your roll. What should BYU fans expect in his first start as a true freshman? What's a realistic expectation?
Well, I think you got a little taste of it in what you saw last week in the fourth quarter, and he played one series in the second quarter. You're going to get some stuff that will make you think Heisman and make you think national championship, and then you'll also get some stuff where you're like, oh, no, what did he just do? So it just depends on how quickly he can get rid of some of those bad plays. And to me, honestly, it's about him getting comfortable in there. He did not look comfortable. Now, I do believe that he'll have a surge of confidence based on the result from last week, and I know a lot of people have been giving him attaboys this week and all that. And be careful listening to all that stuff, but I do think he will have a high of confidence riding into this thing. And if things go well early, you know, this could be the start of something big.
Ray Bentley of ESPN will call the game on ESPN2, BYU Boise State tomorrow night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 8:15 Mountain Time kickoff. Who has more on the line tomorrow, Boise State or BYU? The Broncos are kind of the king of, well, they are the king of the G5. BYU is an independent trying to establish itself, make itself more attractive to those Power 5 conferences. Who has more on the line tomorrow night?
I don't know. I'm not a good guy to ask a question like that because I've always believed you've got everything you've got on the line every time you go out. But looking at it, it's hard. It's a flip of the coin because you look at Boise State and they have an actual chance to run the table and win all their games if they can get by this one. This is really maybe the biggest test that they have left. And also BYU, you know, they've got aspirations to do things, and there's a lot of games on their schedule that look good in their favor. So it's not a game either of them can afford to lose. I can put it that way.
When you look at Boise State, and obviously the stakes are high, do you see if BYU beats Boise State and starts 2-0 with wins against Nebraska and Boise State, are they ranked next week? Any reason not to have BYU ranked next week?
Yeah, some of that will depend on what happens to some of those other teams, but they should be at least in the getting votes category and up there in the mention area. But it doesn't get any easier. You know, you go to UCLA and then Michigan after that. Now they come through that unscathed, then you're talking about a ranked football team.
Bronco Mendenhall has made himself one of the defensive geniuses of college football with his track record. He does a good job with a bend-don't-break philosophy, forces other teams to really have to work hard to beat him with the defense he puts on the field. You're a defensive guy. If you were to play under Bronco Mendenhall's 3-4, what position would you want to play under Bronco?
Usually I'm called offensive. or is it offensive? I tell you, I love what the Bronco does with his defense. I've watched them a lot of years, and I come out of a 3-4 type odd system myself, so I recognize a lot of the different things that they do. It gives you so many different angles to blitz from and really attack an offense. And I know when that type of defense is playing well, they're on the attack. And Boise is the same exact thing, which I think is interesting because you have two, 30 fronts, odd fronts, whatever you want to call them, going head to head. And that, in this day and age in football, although I think it is starting to trend back to more of teams having both ready for a ball game instead of just majoring in one. But primarily it's a four-man front deal, and both these outfits can do that and do. But I love to see the odd defense, and because I can put myself back on the field into those linebacker shoes and see how things develop and watch guys play, and I get a kick out of that. And Broncos, what he did last week, Nebraska was chewing him up and gashing him with some things, and he made a few adjustments, and you could see it on the film, and it made a big difference. And I think guys got a little confidence with that when they started to make some plays, and it snowballed, and they played pretty well in the second half.
We heard you just wrote a book. Tell us about your work.
Well, I got fired from a radio job last December and had some time on my hands. And I had been playing with this manuscript for 20 years, literally. And I decided that was time to get it done. And it's a story about Jack Driftwood, an 18-year veteran of the North American Football Association, NAFA, playing for the Buffalo Blizzard. And, I know a little bit about playing linebacker in Buffalo. So it takes Jack through the season and also gets quite involved with the off-season, his life. There's an old owner in Buffalo who's worried about the team moving after he leaves, after he's gone. Sound familiar? Yeah,
yes, it does.
Yeah, well, I was smart enough to pick up on that. But he brings his daughter in to run the franchise, and her and Driftwood kind of fall in love. And then the general manager of the team has been trying to steal the team from the old owner for almost a decade now. So he's going to try and get his hooks into his daughter and, maybe take the team in that regard. So him and Driftwood clash on or off the field, and they fight together on the field to try to win a Mega Bowl championship. So it's a lot of fun. If you're a football fan and you like a good read, I can't tell you anymore. I mean, get yourself a copy of Driftwood. They're available on Amazon. And you can go to 5countpub.com. That's my publisher. And check it out there as well.
Ray, great to have you in Studio B. I know you played the majority of your career with the Buffalo Bills, but you ended with Cincinnati. And I think I'm one of 3 Bengals fans in the state of Utah.
Is that right?
So I feel like I have a connection with you.
This guy.
I'm the only Bengal to ever retire undefeated. I played the first 2 games. We won them, blew my knee out, and never played there again. But, hey,
What a way to go out.
Right? Yeah, went out on top.
A walk-off in your career.
Yeah.
Ray, have a good call tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, John.